Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Thursday, July 6, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 rundown best bet, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Thursday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Washington Nationals. Brandon Williamson and Mackenzie Gore are your starters. We got two lefties on the mound and two teams that hit lefties pretty well, especially in the last month. The Reds are top 10 in baseball in OPS and ISO, including number 2 in baseball in ISO against lefties in the last 30 days. The Nationals top 15 in OPS and ISO as well against lefties in the last month. Brandon Williamson, a 5.56 ERA overall this season. His last outing wasn't too bad against the Padres, but I still think he struggles here against the Nationals team who does a really good job at limiting strikeouts against lefties. The other side, Mackenzie Gore, we know, we've mentioned a few times, he has really struggled against those teams that hit lefties well. We saw another game last time against the Philadelphia Phillies, 2 2/3 innings, 7 earned runs and a home run in a 19-4 Phillies win. I don't really trust Gore against a very good Reds lineup. I don't trust this Nationals bullpen either, so give me the over here in Cincinnati, Washington. Next up, it's the Oakland Athletics taking on the Detroit Tigers. Hogan Harris and Michael Lorenzen are your starters. There might be something to prove here a little bit for Michael Lorenzen, his first start since being announced an All-Star for the American League this season. Now, every team has to have a representative in the All-Star game, but a lot of people were saying, why Michael Lorenzen over a guy like Alex Lang out of the bullpen for Detroit? I mean, overall this season, Lorenzen 2-6 with a 4.28 ERA. Obviously, win-loss record is overrated. It's not really useful at all in looking at MLB statistics for starting pitchers or relievers, but that 4.28 ERA is a little bit steep. Only 62 strikeouts in 82 innings. I certainly think that there were some better options for the Tigers in terms of their all-star representative, but Lorenzen has still been solid this year for Detroit. He has a good matchup against the A's, who are 25th in baseball in the last 30 days in team OPS against righties and 26th in isolated power. The Tigers' offense has a good matchup against Hogan Harris, who is a lefty. The Tigers have hit lefties pretty well in the last 30 days, despite not hitting J.P. Sears in the first game of this series, but I like the Tigers in this one behind Lorenzen. Give me the Detroit Tigers on the run line at Comerica Park. Next up, we go to Milwaukee as the Cubs take on the Brewers. Marcus Stroman and Freddie Peralta, pretty good pitching matchup we have in our hands here in a big-time rivalry, and this has been a really fun series. It usually is between these two teams, but some really entertaining games so far. And, this is a great pitching matchup, like I mentioned. Both of these teams haven't been the best against right-handed pitchers offensively in the last month or so. When you look at the numbers, Milwaukee's ranked 27th in isolated power against righties. The Cubs 25th in the last 30 days. When you look at OPS, the Cubs are ranked 23rd. The Brewers 27th. Strikeout rate, the Cubs at 21.8% isn't too bad, but the Brewers at 25.8% is pretty steep. Two good starting pitching options, two guys that can miss some bats. Marcus Stroman, more of a pitch-to-contact guy, but he's having a great season, 2.76 ERA. Coming off not a great start against the Cleveland Guardians, that's for sure. He gave up 5 earned runs, but he still had 7 strikeouts against the Guardians team that does not strike out much. Now you're facing the Brewers. I do expect a good outing from Stroman. Freddie Peralta's kind of been inconsistent this year, but I do like backing him, or at least looking towards the under when he's pitching at home this year, compared to on the road where he's got really bad numbers, a 5.82 ERA on the road. He's got a solid 3.75 ERA in 48 innings of work at home with 58 strikeouts. I like the under in the first 5 innings between Chicago and Milwaukee. Next up, it's the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Christopher Sanchez going for Philadelphia. No official starter for the Rays right now. I don't love this spot for Tampa Bay. This is a team that's really been plagued by injuries in their pitching staff and in their rotation. Guys like Springs and Rasmussen went down early. Now Shane McClanahan is put on the IL before the All-Star break. So the Rays, bullpen that already wasn't my favorite to begin with, has been heavily used at, the last couple of weeks and pretty much overall in 2023. Now, Christopher Sanchez was considered more of an opener at the beginning of the season, but he's gone 11 innings in his last 2 starts combined. He's pitched pretty well in both of those games. A combined 4 earned runs, you'll take that from Sanchez. 10 strikeouts, only 1 walk. Now, his team has not backed him up in the run support department, only scoring 3 runs in those last 2 games against the Mets and Nationals. But I think, Sanchez has got a good ERA. He's got good expected numbers. I think he pitches pretty well in this game. I think the Phillies will be able to back him up against the Rays bullpen in this one. So give me the Philadelphia Phillies on the money line. Probably going to get a really good price with Philadelphia on the road. Next up, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Miami Marlins. Jack Flaherty and Yuri Perez are your projected starters for now, but there is no official lineup for this game, so we could see a pitching change. If there is, I'll make sure to update you guys in the comments section below. But Jack Flaherty's coming off a good outing against the New York Yankees. 6 innings of shutout baseball, 4 strikeouts, and an 11-4 Cardinals win. The Cardinals are 3-1 in his last 4 starts now, and I do like his chances in this game to keep the Cardinals competitive here. And Yuri Perez, we mentioned it, and is going into his last game against the Braves. Young pitchers like Perez, who have not really had to deal with a Major League Baseball workload yet, you do worry about how many innings they're getting in, especially in the first half of the season, and that's why there was a reason. The Marlins thought about bringing down Yuri Perez to the minor leagues at one point, even though he was pitching so well. But they just didn't want to work him too much early on, because this is a team now in the playoff race that is going to really want Yuri Perez, whether he's a starter or out of the bullpen in the postseason if the Marlins do make the playoffs. So Perez, because Edward Cabrera went down with an injury, the Marlins couldn't really bring him down, and Perez had to pitch that game against the Braves, where we know he didn't get out of his first inning, giving up 6 earned runs and 2 home runs in a 7-0 Braves win. So now, I still am a little bit worried with Perez in this start. If he pitches, he may not even pitch in this game, but St. Louis, although they're not the Braves, they're still top 10 in baseball against righties in team OPS and isolated power in the last 30 days against righties. So I do think the Cardinals are going to have some value here. I'm going to take the 1.5 runs with a sprinkle on the money line here with the St. Louis Cardinals. Next up, it's the Baltimore Orioles taking on the New York Yankees. Kyle Bradish and Luis Severino are your starters. Sevy just not in good enough form for me to take a chance with the Yankees in this game. I know the Yankees' offense has been better in the last week or so than it was the first 3 weeks without Aaron Judge in the lineup, but I still think when Severino, his last start, 7 earned runs, 9 total runs against the Cardinals in a big 11-4 Yankees loss. Kyle Bradish is in good form for Baltimore. His last 4 starts, 2 earned runs or fewer in all 4 of those games. In his last 5 starts, 7 or more strikeouts in those games. So he's pitching well. He's facing some tough teams along the way. The Blue Jays, the Rays, the Twins. I do think that Bradish pitches well on the road. I think they'll be able to I think the Orioles bats will be able to back him up as well. So give me the Baltimore Orioles on the money line at Yankee Stadium. Next up, it's the Kansas City Royals taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Jordan Lyles and Tanner Bybee are your starters. Jordan Lyles has been better in his last 5 starts or so than he was at the beginning of the season. We know he's coming off his first win of the year against the Tampa Bay Rays, 6 innings, 4 runs, but still not good enough for me to take a chance with Kansas City in this game. Tanner Bybee on the other side has pitched very well at Progressive Field this season. He's 3-1 with a 2.38 ERA and 34 home innings, only giving up 1 home run and has 35 strikeouts to go with it. Lyles is still, even though he's pitching better, he's still giving up 3+ runs a game in his last 4 starts. I think Cleveland will be able to get to him, especially because Jordan Lyles' strikeout stuff is not great. The Guardians already do a really good job at limiting strikeouts, so I expect Lyles to only go about 4 or 5 innings, and this Kansas City bullpen's also not been the best as of late. So give me the Cleveland Guardians here on the run line at home. Next up is the Texas Rangers taking on the Boston Red Sox. Nathan Eovaldi facing his former team here. Cutter Crawford on the other side for Boston. Nathan Eovaldi's pitched so well this year. He's really had to step up his game with the injury to Jacob deGrom. The Rangers made a big free agent signing with deGrom, and he goes down with a season-ending injury, and still the Rangers are 51-35 going into Wednesday's games. I don't think anybody would have predicted that. If deGrom goes down, the Rangers still compete. But Eovaldi's been so good, 10-3 record, 2.64 ERA, even better numbers on the road with a 6-1 record and a 2.44 ERA. His last start against the Astros, a very tough lineup, 7 innings, no earned runs, 5 strikeouts. He's done a much better job this season than last year with the Red Sox at keeping the ball on the ground, not giving up as many home runs. Cutter Crawford, I really liked him when he was out of the bullpen, but as a starting pitcher, just hasn't been the same for the Red Sox. His last start wasn't bad against the Blue Jays, 5 2/3 innings, only 2 runs, but those 2 runs, 2 home runs, and he's given up 4 home runs now in his last 2 outings against a really tough Rangers lineup. I don't love his chances, so give me the Texas Rangers on the money line at Fenway Park. Next up, it's the Seattle Mariners taking on the Houston Astros. We're going to see George Kirby and Framber Valdez on the mound in this one. George Kirby doesn't have a lot of experience against this Houston Astros team. He's only faced them twice in his career. One of those starts was last year in the regular season, the other one last year in the playoffs. And that playoff outing, 7 innings of shutout baseball, that was that 1-0 Astros win in 18 innings. One of the more epic games in playoff history in the last decade or so in baseball. But George Kirby's been consistent this year. His last 4 starts, 3 earned runs or fewer in all those games. He's really efficient. He usually gives the Mariners 6+ innings because he doesn't really walk a lot of guys. His strikeout numbers aren't the best this year, but he's limiting sharp contact, and his ERA is strong on the road at home this year. Kirby, I think, pitches well in this game. Framber Valdez has a pretty tough matchup on his hands. The Mariners, as of late, they're top 5 in baseball in WRC plus and top 6 in OPS against lefties in the last 30 days. I'm going to take the Seattle Mariners on the road here on the money line. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Chicago White Sox. Yusei Kikuchi and Dylan Cease are your starters. Dylan Cease's last start wasn't his best. It really wasn't his worst either against the Oakland A's. 5 1/3 innings of work, 3 earned runs, and 5 strikeouts. And the White Sox lost that game in the end, but that was an extra innings. And in the month of June, Cease had in 28 2/3 innings, a 2.2 ERA, 42 strikeouts, and only 3 home runs allowed. He was in much better form the last month or so, and his numbers at home this season have been better than on the road, where he's got a 3.62 ERA at guaranteed rate field. Yusei Kikuchi, slightly worse numbers on the road this year with a 4.24 ERA. And the White Sox last year and the years before, a couple years before, were known as lefty killers. This year, mixed numbers, mixed results against lefties. I think they'll be able to get to Yusei Kikuchi here, though, for a few runs early on. I like the White Sox's chances in this game, so give me Chicago on the money line at guaranteed rate field. Next up, it's the New York Mets taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Carlos Carrasco and Ryan Nelson are your starters. I like the over in this game. This New York Mets bullpen's not been the best as of late, but their offense is starting to turn it up a little bit. I mean, Ryan Nelson overall, 7.09 ERA at Chase Field in 39 and the third innings. He just hasn't been able to pitch well at home, similar to a guy like Zach Davies, so I don't like his chances. Carlos Carrasco's got that ERA at 5.94 on the season. Yes, he's been better as of late, but he's still giving up a lot of sharp contact. His control's been off. Yes, he's been able to strike out some batters, but the Diamondbacks do a very good job at limiting strikeouts, so I expect his pitch count to be up early on in this game. I don't expect him to go too much more than 5 innings, and I think we're going to see a high-scoring affair. Give me the over in New York, Arizona. And the final game for Thursday's card in Major League Baseball, it's the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers with Johan Oviedo and Julio Urias on the mound. And this one, I like the over in this game as well. I like the over in the final 2 games on the board. Johan Oviedo's last start, 8 earned runs, 9 base hits, and a home run. Makes it 3 straight games, giving up a home run for Oviedo. Only 1 strikeout in that start against Milwaukee, a very strikeout-heavy team. That's concerning for me. Now you're facing the Dodgers, who have been pretty hot offensively as of late. Julio Urias on the other side did not pitch well in his first start back from the injury. Gave up 5 earned runs to the Kansas City Royals of all teams in his 6-4 Dodgers loss and only 3 innings of work. He has struggled overall this year. He's got an ERA just below 5. Now, yes, he's been much better at Dodger Stadium, where he's got a sub-2 ERA, but he's facing a Pirates team that offensively has been decent in this series. And in the last 30 days, they have not hit righties very well, but they have hit lefties pretty well. In the last 30 days, top 15 in WRC+, top 15 in team OPS, and right around league average in isolated power. Give me the over here in Pirates-Dodgers to end the night. And that's it. Those are the games for Thursday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.